Hello everyone. So today we'll continue with our CAT previous year question series, and this will be the LRDI set number 78 from CAT 2018 paper. Now we'll look at the question. So the question says, a base exchange rate of currency X with respect to currency Y is the number of units of currency Y which is equivalent to the value of 1 unit of currency X. The currency exchange outlet buys currency exchange rate that are lower than the base exchange rate and sell the currency at selling exchange rate that are higher than the base exchange rate. इसका मतलब क्या है? Let's say we have currency X and Y, and for 10 units of X, we are getting 1 unit of Y, which is the base rate or the market rate. So if someone, when I'm selling the currency Y, I'm selling it more than the exchange rate. So when I'm selling Y, if the person I'm selling it to, he needs to pay me, let's say, for example, instead of 10x, he has to pay me 12x, and then I am selling 1y to him. I am giving him y. But in exchange, let's say someone is giving me y and he wants x. Then if he gives me 1y, I will pay him less than the base rate, which is, let's say, for example, 8x. That's what the statement means. Okay, so when we buy, we are buying it at less than the base rate, and when we sell, we are selling it at a higher than the base rate exchange rate. So a currency exchange outlets uses the local currency L to buy and sell three international currencies A, B, C, but does not exchange one international currency directly with another. The base exchange rates of A, B, C with respect to L are in the ratio 100 is to 120 is to 1. So when we see the ratio of A is to B is to C, they are in the ratio 100 is to 120 is to 1, or we can say 100A is to 120A is to 1A. ठीक है, अगर हमें exact value देखनी है तो, because these are ratio, we are, so A is just, we are assuming a random integer or a, not even an integer, a random number. It can be in points also. The buying exchange rates of each of A, B, C with respect to L are 5% below the corresponding exchange rates. That means if we talk about the buying exchange rate, they will be 5% less. That means 95A is to 5% of 126. So 114A is to 0.95A. This will be the buying rate, and selling rate will be, and their selling rates are 10% above their corresponding base rates. So selling rates would be 110A, 10% above the base price. Let's say the base price is the market price. So market price is this, the buying price is this, and the selling price would be 110 is to 132A is to 1.1A. This will be the selling price of the currency of A, B, and C respectively. Now the following facts are known about the outlet on a particular day. The first one says the amount of L used by the outlet to buy C equals the amount of L it received by selling C. Okay, we cannot figure out anything by this statement as of now. The second statement says the amount of L used by the outlet to buy A and B are in the ratio 5:3. So if we talk about how much quantity they have bought, so quantity bought versus quantity sold, हम ये देखेंगे. सो हमने जो देखा है ए और बी का कितना क्वांटिटी इन्होंने बाय किया है. सो वी डोंट नो द क्वांटिटी येट, बट वी डो नो दैट द अमाउंट ऑफ एल यूज्ड बाय द आउटलेट टू बाय ए एंड बी आर इन द रेशियो 5:3. ठीक है. अब थर्ड वाली स्टेटमेंट क्या कह रही है? द अमाउंट ऑफ एल द आउटलेट रिसीव्ड फ्रॉम द सेल्स विच इज क्वांटिटी सोल्ड ऑफ ए एंड बी आर इन द रेशियो 5:9. तो हमें पता नहीं कितना सोल्ड किया है अभी, बट उनका रेशियो इतना है the amount of L का. Now the fourth statement says the outlet received 88,000 units of L by selling A during the day. We know that the selling price of A is 110A. Let's not assume it A क्योंकि वो ऊपर वाले A से confuse हो जाएंगे हम. Let's say this is some random number K. Instead of A, let's assume this is K. ठीक है? Let's say this is K instead of A. So that we don't get confused with the currency A. ठीक है? So the outlet received 88,000 by selling A during the day. We know that the selling price of A is 110K. So how many units of A are sold? 88,000 divided by 110K, which is how much? Is equals to 800 by K. So we know that the quantity sold of A is 800 by K. Now we know, so we are done with the fourth statement. The third statement says the amount of L the outlet received from the sales of A and B are in the ratio 5:9. We know that from A it is receiving 88,000. We don't know that amount we are receiving of L by selling B. This ratio is 5:9. So amount of L we are receiving by selling B is how much? 88,000 into 9 divided by 5, which is how much? अगर हम इसको कर दें, this is 17600 into 9, which is equals to 158400. This is the amount of L we have received by selling B. That means the quantity of B we have sold is, it will be this divided by 132K, this divided by 132K, which is how much? Well, this is 1200. This will be 1200 by K is the amount of B we have sold, 1200 by K. So we are done with the third statement also. The fifth statement says the outlet started the day with some amount of L, 2,500 units of A, 4,800 units of B, and 48,000 units of C. And the sixth statement says the outlet ended the day with some units of L, 3,300 units of B, 4,800 units of B, which is same as the one it started with. So we know that if the quantity of B sold was 1,200 by K, the amount of B bought was also 1,200 by K, because the amount of B remained the same by the end of the day and the starting of the day. And then 51,000 units of C. ठीक है? So this we know that by the end of the day, the amount of B bought would also have been 1,200 by K. That means how much did it buy for? We know that the buying price of B is how much? Buying price of B is 114K. That means how much L or how much currency of L did we spend in buying B? It will be 1,200 by K. How much L did we spend in buying B? That will be 1,200 into 114K, which is 1,200. K से K कट जाएगा. So the amount of L we spent in buying B is 1,200 into 114. And we know that the amount of L used by the outlet to buy A and B are in the ratio 5:3. So amount of L used to buy A divided by amount of L which is used to buy B, which is 1,200 into 114, is equals to 5/3. So amount of L used to buy A is how much? 5/3 into 1200 इंटू 114 विच इज हाउ मच, ये कितना हो जाएगा, 400 हो जाएगा ये। तो विच इज, ये हो जाएगा 2000, 400 इंटू 5 2000 इंटू 2000 इंटू 114, ये विच इज हाउ मच, 228000। दिस इज द अमाउंट ऑफ A used to, amount of L used to buy A during that day। ठीक है। तो अगर हमने इतना L स्पेंड किया है टू बाय A, वी नो दैट द बाइंग रेट ऑफ A इज 95K। तो हमने कितनी यूनिट्स बाई बाई की है, 228,000 डिवाइडेड बाय 95K विच इज हाउ मच, दिस इज इक्वल टू 2400 बाई K। इतनी यूनिट्स हमने बाई की हैं K की, A की। ठीक है। नाउ वी नो द डिफरेंस ऑफ, अगर हमने इतना यूनिट बाय किया है और इतना सेल कर दिया ए का, तो कितना यूनिट हमने गेन किया है ड्यूरिंग द डे, 2400K माइनस 800K विच इज हाउ मच, 1600 डिवाइडेड बाय K विच इज हाउ मच, हमने by the end starting of the day it was 2500 units, by the end of the day it is 3300 units, so we have gained how much, 800। this is equal to 800। so what is the value of K? If this is equal to 800, then what will be the value of K? So let's make space। ठीक है। So if this has to 1600 divided by K has to be 800, then K has to be 2। We know that K is 2। K is 2। ठीक है। Now if K is 2, we know that the quantity sold कितना हो जाएगा, ये सब divided by 2 हो जाएगा। This is 1200, this is 600, this is 400 and 600 respectively, 400 and 600 respectively। हमें अभी सी की वैल्यू नहीं पता है कि सी कितना सेल हुआ है और कितना बाय किया है हमने। ठीक है, हमें इतना पता चल गया अभी तक। अब फर्स्ट स्टेटमेंट क्या कह रही है, द अमाउंट ऑफ एल यूज टू used by the outlet to buy C equals the amount of L it received by selling C। ठीक है। लेकिन अभी वो कितना है ये हमें पता नहीं है। इन सब का भी हम K की वैल्यूज डाल देंगे ऊपर भी। ये ऊपर कितना है, 100K कितना हो जाएगा, जो मार्केट वैल्यू है इसका मतलब ये है कि 200L दे के हमें एक A मिल रहा है, 240L दे के हमें एक B मिल रहा है, एंड 2L दे के हमें एक C मिल रहा है। ये एग्जैक्ट वैल्यू होगी मार्केट वैल्यू। और ये 95 का कितना हो जाएगा, 190। ये 114 का कितना हो जाएगा, 228। एंड दिस विल बी, इंस्टेड ऑफ 0.95 इट विल बी 1.9। एंड ये सब डबल हो जाएगा, ये 220 हो जाएगा, ये 264 हो जाएगा और ये 2.2 हो जाएगा। हाउ मच 220, 264 एंड 2.2, यही आ जाएगा ना। 120 का 10, 240 का 10% विच इज 24 ऐड कर दो, 264 ठीक है इसमें। एंड दिस या, so we have basically added 10% in 200, 10% in 240 and 10% in 220 and subtracted 5% to get the bot values। तो k की वैल्यू हमें पता चल गई सारी की सारी। k की वैल्यू 2 थी, हमने निकाल लिया। अब आगे क्या कह रहा था ये, अगर हम वापस C पे आए, the amount of L used by the outlet to buy C equals the amount of L it received by selling C. Let's say that the amount it received by selling or buying C was LC. Now, how many number of units would it have bought? We know that if how many units of C would it have bought? We know that if by to buy 1 unit of C, we need to spend 1.9 L. So if we have spent LC, how many units we would have bought? LC divided by 1.9. And similarly for selling, we for 1L we get 2.2. Sorry, for 1 C we get 2.2 L. So if we are selling for LC amount, then how many units will we sell? It will be LC divided by 2.2. These are the number of units we have sold, and these are the number of units we have bought. If LC is the total amount of L we are getting from C, इतना clear है? Now, if this is the amount of units of C we have bought, this is the amount of we have bought, and this is the amount we have sold. And we know that the at the beginning of the day we had 48,000 units of C, and by the end of the day we have 51,000 units of C. That means we have bought more than what we have sold. तभी हमारा stock बढ़ गया है. So LC divided by 1.9 minus LC divided by 1.2 is how much? How much have our stock increased with? 51,000 minus 48,000, which is how much? 3,000. That means if we do this subtraction, this is what? 2.2 LC minus 1.9 LC in the numerator, which is how much? 0.3 LC divided by 1.9 into 2.2 is equals to 3,000. इससे LC हमारा कितना निकल के आ रहा है? L is equals to 1000 into 1.9 into 2.2, which is how much? LC, which is how much? 41,800 is the amount we have used to buy and sell C. The amount of L basically we are talking about here in this statement is 41,800. ठीक है? So if we divide LC, which is 41,800 by 1.9, how much are we getting? We can get the quantity bought, this one. How much is it? If we do this division, how much will we get? We will get 22,000. 22,000 units of C which are bought, and how many are sold? 41,800 divided by 2.2, which is how much? 19,000. Obviously, we don't need to do this calculation because we know that the difference between them is 3,000. So 22,000 अगर हमने calculate कर लिया तो 3,000 less, we have sold 19,000 units of C. So we are done with statement 1 also. Now coming to the questions. Questions say how many units of currency A did the outlet buy on that day? How many units of currency A were bought? Quantity bought of A is how much? 1200. So what's the answer for this? 1200. If you have done this much, then answering the questions now is super easy. Let's look at the next question. Let me make some space उससे पहले. Okay. Now we look at the question. Next question says, how many units of currency C did the outlet sell on that day? How many units of currency C were sold on that day? 19,000. So what's the answer? Answer is D, 19,000. The third question says, what was the base exchange rate of currency B with respect to L on that day? What was the base exchange rate? Base exchange rate is basically the market exchange rate of currency B with respect to L on that day. Answer क्या है इसका? 240. Pretty simple and straightforward again. And the last question says, what was the buying exchange rate of currency C with respect to L on that day? Buying exchange rate क्या हमारा कौन सा बता रहा है ये वाला? Of currency C, which is what? 1.9. So the हमारा question का आंसर क्या है? Option number D, 1.9. So I hope the following set was clear to you. I know the calculations were a bit tricky on this set, and the statements might also have been confusing, but once you figure out this table or these values, answering the questions is like the questions are pretty straightforward and simple. So for any further queries, you can reach out to us on the following number, or you can reach out to us on WhatsApp or the given email ID. Thank you.